Tokyo Woof Woof, Chapter 10. It was raining. Ichigo, having lost one of the men she might have loved, wanted to be alone to think about it all. She was outside and raining and was thinking. Her heart was heavy in her chest and she had eyes wet from her crystalline tears. She stepped toward the door to her house and paused, thinking about Messiah. How could she face Otachi now that she was feeling this weight? She shook her head and pulled her hand back. No one. She couldn't speak to him now. They were on a break. Sadly, she went into the house and to her room. She sat on her bed and cried, but then heard a deep, mystical voice. "Don't you just wish you could bring him back?" the voice said. It belonged to Kish. He suddenly appeared behind her and hugged around her neck. "I'm here for you now, Kitty Kate." Ichigo stiffened, not knowing how to react. "No, Kish!" she said sharply, but she was too sad to pull away. She wanted secretly to listen to what it was Kish had to say. Yes, I do," she whispered, crying more. "I want him to come back now so badly. I thought I loved Otachi, but now I just don't know what I think." Kish smiled across his devious face. "I don't think you need either of them, cute little Koneko-chan." He swung around to stand in front of her, yellow eyes eyeing her intently. "I think you should just come with me instead. I'm all you really need, and I can make you forget both of them." She shook her head. "No, Kish," she said. "You don't know anything. I need to—" She trailed off, not knowing what she wanted. Her eyes were cold and watery. Kish put his hand on Ichigo's arm gently and said, "I'm trying to help, pet." Ichigo looked at him, not sure if she wanted to pull away or stay where she was. One thing was for sure, and that was that she didn't like him calling her pet. She slapped him across the face, letting him feel the hot sting of pain. "How dare you call me that, and how dare you come to me when I'm so vulnerable?" Kish grinned and licked his lip, which had split as Ichigo had hit him. "Oh, fine," he said cruelly, a devilish glint in his eyes. "You have a lot of anger, Ichigo. You want to make every suffer such as much as you." He laughed cruelly. Ichigo was silent. Then Ichigo glared at him through brown eyes and yelled, "No, that's not true! I semicolon am a Mew Mew because I don't want anyone to suffer at all! Don't you dare make up your mind for me!" Leaning in, Kish pressed his warm lips on Ichigo's forehead and grabbed her forcefully by the arm. Ichigo Zero tenses and can't pull away. She screams, but Kish covered her mouth with his hand to silence. She struggled in a futile attempt to get away, and he pushed her against the wall. "Be quiet. Don't want to wake your parents up." She slapped his hand away with wolf strength, then tried to run towards the door. He tackled her almost in a glomp, laughing and saying, "What's wrong, Koneko-chan? Aren't we going to have fun?" Kish pushed his weight against her, pinning her to the floor. Moving his lips to her neck, he bared his fangs and sunk them into her neck. She tensed and opened her mouth to make a scream, but it was stuck in her throat. What was happening? Just as fast as it happened, it ended. Kish pulled away from her and licked the delicious-tasting red liquid off his lips. It was sweet, exactly how he imagined her to taste. Ichigo whimpered, feeling dizzy. "I don't feel good," she whispered, turning pale. Her eyes glowed in the dim light and she shut them. Kish, still on top of her, laughed lowly and whispered, "Soon." "Oh, why? Why did this jerk bite my neck?" Ichigo thought silently to herself. Kish let off a soft chickle and got off of her. She passed out in a pool of her own blood, her eyes and chest burning. Meanwhile, at the cafe, Mint was worried. Where was Ichigo? She didn't know, so she was worried. Coursing her arm, she shook her head and went back to cooking. Mint was learning to cook and wasn't so good. "I will be a chef one day," said Minty sadly. "Hey, what are you cooking?" asked Lettuce. "I'm making a souffle," Mint smiled. Lettuce smiled. "I like souffle," she said. "Ichigo does too. Hey, has anyone seen her today? She disappeared after the funeral." "She's probably still sad about it," Otachi said, crossing his arms. Sakura sighed and said, "Me aunt, make me a burrito." Mint frowned and put her hands on her hips. "I am a French chef, Sakura One-chan," she said indignantly. "I don't make burritos. If Ichigo were here, she'd make me a burrito. Get it?" But no one felt like laughing at the joke. They were all secretly worried about Ichigo. Pudding suggested, "Why don't we all go to Ichigo's house, desu?" The rest agreed by nod, except for Otachi, who felt uneasy. I don't know, he said, but the others left. Otachi decided to look around the park by himself. He was sad that he and Ichigo were broken up and didn't want to see her. But at the park, a crash was happening. Oh no, it ham, said Otachi. Alien! Sakutro wasn't listening and was listening to Vocaloid on her iPod. Otachi ran to the crash sit. Otachi gasped when he saw the alien predecessor. He transformed into his Woof outfit, which was black pants and black long sleeves. He had red fuzz trim and fangs like a wolf. He pulled out his sword and attacked the pred. Tura Predicite jumped away and revealed behind it was behind Ichigo. Ichigo had her eyes closed, and when she opened them, the gay were red like blood and empty. Otachi looked again, and she looked sharply. Something was wrong. One eye was blue. She smiles coldly at Otachi. Ichigo? He asked. Ichigo laughed quietly and waved her arm. A ray of ice slammed Otachi against the wall. Otachi was shocked, and the ice was ice cold. He stared up at Ichigo and glared. What have they done to you? He asked calmly. She shook her head. You wouldn't understand, she said. She shot fire out and hit Otachi hard. He screamed and got still. He was wonder. What happened? Ichigo looked like herself. She had on a black dress. Tarat went to her knees and was one piece. She had long sleeves and white lace and a black version of her belt choker, and her hair was down. She had on a mini black top har with a bow and blue Lolita shoes, and her eyes were fire red and ice blue. Oh no, Otachi thought. Oh no, indeed. Ichigo lifted the knife and pushed it into his chest. It'll make you understand, she whispered. To be continued.